what you think you want to do to achieve that purpose, we might find that there will be confusion. Some people will trample on the other person's feet. Some people will do what others are doing, and others will leave certain things undone. At the end of the day, we may never achieve the goals we've set out to achieve at a given time. So we now have a governance process. That governance process is essentially to make sure that what we have said will be done within the agreed timelines, within the agreed expenditure profiles or budget. It is in the case of government, it's government's ability to make and enforce rules and deliver services to the people. Government governs by making rules. That's one. Enforcing the rules, two. But these rules and its enforcement must be directed to delivering services to the people, what we call democratic dividends, or meeting the essential ingredients of the Constitution, which says the well-being and the safety or the security of the people, their well-being. It is a system by which entities are directed and controlled. Now, these entities could be companies, businesses, whether they are governmental or not governmental, private, public, limited, guaranteed, whatever name they are entities, and they are directed and controlled. What is the objective of the direction and control? Is to achieve expected outcome at the expected time and within the budget, within the parameters of execution. It is generally concerned with the structures and processes for decision making, accountability, control, and behavior at the top of the entity. Behavior at the top of the entity is a critical element of governance when you are now coming to ensuring that it's not only that the company follows its rules, but that those who are asked to monitor the execution or enforcement of those rules themselves are also behaving well. So there's a totality of behavioral management within the organization from the topmost level to the lowest level. And if everybody is now for acting according to the rules, according to the codes, then we will achieve our goals at a specified time and within the approved parameters. So that's the general concept of governance. When we proceed to the issue of good governance, governance is governance, but how do we know that it is good? So good governance here is the process whereby public institutions conduct public affairs and manage public resources in a manner that promotes the rule of law and the realization of the human rights. These rights are civil rights, your ability to be allowed to live, to breathe, to move around, to own houses, to own property. These are civil rights. To associate. Then political rights, freedom to vote, to belong to political parties, political associations, to exercise your political franchise. Economic rights, ability to have a decent opportunity to earn a living, to exercise your talents, to produce wealth. that is guaranteed by the laws and the constitution of any nation. You have social rights, ability to get married, ability to move around, to form associations, to belong to groups and clubs. You have cultural rights, ability and freedom to exercise your cultural rights, to dance, to sing, to jump, whatever it is that gives you a cultural identity. You have a right to dress in that form. So good governance is measured by the ability in a public institution, in a government, in a country, that the rule of law and the realization of human rights. Rule of law, which brings protection and security, realization of human rights, which are civil rights, political rights, economic rights, social rights, and cultural rights. If these rights are missing at any point, then it is clear that we are not having good governance. And so you can see the environment we live in now and see whether are we having all our rights? Is there a promotion of the rule of law? Do we have protection from harm and abuse, and protection of lives? Our civil rights being protected, our political rights being protected. When we vote, do we guarantee that whoever we voted for is the person that the votes are counted for? These are things that shows whether we have good governance. Characteristics of a good governance in the public realm, in a political realm, in a nation, is one, participation. There should be rules for participation and opportunity for citizens to participate in selection and decision making. So that is one. Anytime you are not having, people are not feeling that they participate, some people feel that they're excluded, then that is not good governance. If rule of law is not very clear, people commit crimes, they are arrested and put through justice, speedy justice. If people kidnap, the kidnappers are arrested and put through justice. If people steal, if they commit any fraudulent act, if they become corrupt, the rule of law must operate in a manner that everybody knows what is good to be done and what is bad to be done. And when you do what is good, you receive a reward. When you do what is bad, the country comes after you. The third component of good governance is transparency. Transparency. Government is organized for the good of the people. And the power that government exercises is power that belongs to the people. It's donated power. And therefore, they must make sure the people that donated this power are seen and watching and knowing what they're doing. The donors or those who have the sovereign power do not have to second guess those they've delegated or beg them to let them know what is going on. So transparency is a critical component of good governance. Responsiveness. Responsiveness. If you make a request, if there is people carry placards, people write petitions, they write protests, they protest, the government ought to respond. You make a request or write a letter to government agency, they should respond to the citizen who is the owner of the sovereignty. Consensus oriented, which means you don't impose your will. You don't issue decrees as military people will issue. Or sometimes government seems to be issuing decrees these days. In the situation we have, every day you wake up, you hear a new law, a new regulation, and that is not really, there must be consensus. If you want to take a decision concerning the oil industry, people in oil industry ought to be consulted. I want to take it concerning those in pharmaceutical, in medicine, in electronics. There must be a consensus. The other is equity and inclusiveness. We speak about it so much in the country. Equity and fair play. You must be, whatever a government does, it must be equitable. It must show inclusiveness, both in terms of demographic inclusiveness, sex inclusiveness, ethnic, religious. So every group must be included in decision making and catered for. It should not be a government that caters for its own people only, those that look like it, those that operate at their level, their business partners and associates, or people from their tribe or from their religion. Equity and inclusiveness. Then, of course, there must be effectiveness and efficiency, because effectiveness is delivering the expected results. We talked about those rights. Those rights are dividends of democracy. If you don't deliver them, you are not effective. A government that doesn't deliver electricity, does not deliver water, does not deliver housing, does not deliver appropriate health care, that does not deliver opportunity for economic prosperity, that government or that governance is not good governance. Good governance must be effective, but also efficient. Efficient means that it is operating within a given budget. I kept mentioning it. It's not enough to achieve something, but you must achieve it within the given time speed. That's efficiency, time. And then within the given budget. So effectiveness and efficiency are marks of measuring good governance. And then, of course, accountability. You must be accountable for every resource given to your charge. Every kobo that comes to the government of the country must be accounted for. That is good governance. This is applicable to national political organizations, national organizations, NGOs, and is also extrapolated to private businesses. But this is good governance, mostly applicable in public institutions. Then we'll now move to how its applicability in private institutions, in non-governmental institutions as well. That is the concept of corporate governance. Corporate governance. Please move on with the slide. Corporate governance now narrows down governance to corporate environment, corporate situation, mostly essentially companies and businesses. Move the slide. So move the slide. Please go back. You've jumped. Go to the corporate governance. You have jumped. Go to the slide before. Go to the title, start with corporate governance.
And that is where we are now, sir.
No, corporate governance. There's a title. Okay, all right.
Yes,
no, the system by which companies, the definition. Yes, that's where we are. Is it not in that order? This is where we are. Please follow the slides and let's be orderly. So we have now come to corporate governance, which is now bringing this governance concept to corporate setting, private sector setting, institutional setting, not just good corporate governance, not just good governance, which we talked about, in public environment, looking at political, national governance, and so forth. Corporate governance is the system by which companies are directed and controlled. And this is done by the board of directors and management. Management of the company and the board of directors have responsibility with the oversighting of the board of directors to direct control a company. It's corporate governance. It is a system of rules. You can see the relationship between corporate governance and good governance. It is a system of rules, practices by which a company is directed and controlled. Within the concept of corporate governance, you must talk about rules. In the case of governance, we talked about laws. But here now is rules, practices, and processes by which a company is directed and controlled. It is the way in which companies are governed and to what purpose. It also identifies who has power and accountability and who makes decisions. Corporate governance spells out who has right to do what, who has power to do what, and what we call limitation of authority. How much power does A or has must be part of the component of corporate governance, so that we're not wondering who's supposed to do what and when, and ensuring that people do not exceed their powers or abuse them. It is the framework of policies and guidelines that informs a company's conduct, decision making, and practice. Framework of policies and guidelines that informs a company's conduct, a company's decision making, and practice. It essentially involves balancing the interests of a company's many shareholders, which can include shareholders, senior management employees, customers, suppliers, lenders, the government, and the community. A company has stakeholders. That is, many stakeholders. These stakeholders become first shareholders, those who get together to put their money together to run the business. They are one of the primary stakeholders. They have the management, senior management. They are stakeholders. The board is stakeholder. Employees, our customers, the suppliers, the lenders, the government, the community, and the environment. They are stakeholders. Because if we do not sure that the interests of these ones are taken care of, then there's going to be a problem. If you do not take care of the shareholders, they will sell their shares or withdraw their money. If you don't treat management well, they will not be motivated. If you don't pay employees well, they will not give their best. If you don't pay them, they withdraw their services. If you don't treat your customers well, they stop buying your products or service. And when they stop buying your product and service, you can as well know that your business is dying. If your suppliers don't supply you because they don't get paid, you cannot replenish your products line. If your lenders do not lend you money, or they withdraw their money, then you are in trouble because you don't have enough working capital. The government that gives you license, the government that demands tax, the government that maintains law can say you have not paid your tax, they close your company, they shut it down. The community can go on break your cables, break your pipes, and the environment, which is a silent stakeholder. If you don't treat the environment well, it will come back one day to haunt you. As we are seeing in Nigeria, and everybody's complaining of too much heat. For this year, since late last year, we'll be waiting for Harmattan to come. Harmattan has only come in terms of haze and dust, not much of cold winds. And that's because of the way we have treated our environment globally, called the climate crisis. So it is a responsibility of the senior management and the board of an organization to make sure that all the stakeholders have fair returns on their investments and contribution so that the company will be at peace. Everybody will be happy to work and play their roles to continue to support the growth and sustainability of the company. That's corporate governance. Move on. So, are you paying attention? Are you doing another thing? Please let me not prompt you. When you see me, please follow me now. When I finish, you move to the next slide. I will have taken, ask somebody else to run this. I don't like going ahead of you. 4 key principles of corporate governance. I call in corporate governance, you have what they call, not even, we call them, some people call them principles. They're all giving all kinds of names. Sometimes they even call them pillars or exchange. But there are 4 key issues when you are talking about corporate governance. First is responsibility. Corporate governance in the management of organizations and corporate, there must be lines of responsibility. They must be well defined. You cannot have a situation where nobody knows what he's supposed to do and nobody knows what he is not supposed to do. So responsibility is one thing that must be enshrined. What is the job of the floor man? What's the job of the employee? What's the job of the manager? What's the job of the director? What's the job of the board? Everybody must know their own responsibility, because if you don't know your responsibility, then what do we expect? How do we measure your expectations? And how do we reward you or punish you? So responsibility is one. Number 2, accountability. Every individual in an organization, every officer, every manager must be accountable for the resources that is allocated to it to carry out any specific responsibility. Are you a sales manager? Are you a product manager? Are you a manufacturing director? Whatever resources that are put in your purview for your work, you must account for it. And look, accountability in this place is in 2 forms. There is the financial accountability, which is to say, I've given you 1 million. How did you spend it? You prove how you spent it, back it up with receipts and evidence. That's one form of accountability. And the second and the more important form of accountability is, what result did you produce? Because the way you are given this money not to spend it and not bring receipts, is to spend it to achieve a goal, to travel, to generate business, to buy raw materials to produce certain number of products, to do certain things. That is what the money was made available for. So accountability that is demanded from us under the purview of corporate governance is financial accountability and then result accountability, outcome accountability. You must account for that opportunity. Otherwise, you may have wasted resources, you may have destroyed wealth instead of creating wealth. The 4th and critical aspect of principle of corporate governance is fairness. Fairness, equity, justice, fair play. It is known that man is essentially a greedy animal, very selfish and self-centered. When you give him an opportunity, he cares more first for himself, then for his family, and for those closest to him. Often he doesn't think about those who are far away. The same happens in organizations. Sometimes managers of the organization think more about themselves and manipulate policies for their own greater benefit. They ignore the what did they say? The chicken that lays the egg. They ignore the chicken. They ignore the staff. And they ignore the government. The taxes will not be paid. They do not think about the shareholders who have invested their money because they are not there running the company. So it is the job of the board and senior manager to make sure that everybody in the organization, every stakeholder, as I said before, receives reward that is commensurate with his input. If you own 1 share, you get dividend for 1 share. If you own 100 shares, you get dividend for 100 shares. If you want to have the same dividend as the man who has 100 shares, then buy 100 shares. If you are a representative, you're a salesperson, and you are given a budget, a target, and there is a commission of 5%. If you sell 1 million, you get 5%. If you sell 2 million, you get 5% of 2 million, which is more than 5% of 1 million. So the person who sold 1 million cannot get more than you that sold 2 million or 5 million. And five of you that sold 1 million, the person that sold 10 million cannot get the same reward. Because if it's done, you're being unfair to those who have put their efforts. And the beyond being fair and obeying the spiritual laws that are affected and that have competition with being fair and equitable, it's also a way of making everybody happy. It's a way of making everybody seek to make more effort, since they know that the more effort they make will yield more. If you have organization where at the end of the year everybody is promoted, just because the company achieved some growth, that is not right. You must be sure that those who contribute to that growth are promoted. Those who control the growth may not be promoted. So that those who contribute to the growth will know that they're getting a reward for it, so that they want to do more. If you treat everybody the same, then those who are working hard will have no motivation to continue to work hard. And those who are not working hard enough, no motivation to work harder, because at the end of the day, everybody is promoted level 1, step 1, level 2, step 2. So fairness is a critical function of corporate governance. The 4th key principle is transparency. Transparency, as it is for public sector governance, so it is for corporate governance. Let's know what everybody else is doing as much as possible, because it helps all of us. One good thing about transparency, it helps us to fight corruption. When you do something in secret, Satan can recommend to you and convince you to do shady things. But if you're operating in the open, if everybody's watching you, if everybody's seeing you, if what you're doing is online and everybody sees it, then the chances of succumbing to satanic suggestion will not happen. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to measure corporate governance, check if there's responsibility in the organization. Everybody knows what his job is. If there accountability, you demand people to write weekly, monthly, quarterly reports, and those reports are assessed both for output and for financial record. Is there fairness? Are people treated fairly? Is there transparency? If you find these 4 key principles, you are looking at a good company that has a good corporate governance. Then what they call the pillars, again, these names are interchangeable. This is, some people call this the 4 P's of corporate governance, 4 P's, which is in corporate governance, there must be purpose. Every company, every division, every section, every department, down to the individual, must have a purpose for what they are doing. What's the purpose? What's the purpose? 2, the people, because the people are the critical constant. I don't want to call them variable. Constant that you need to achieve your goals. So you must not overlook your people. Without your people, your business may not succeed at all. Of course, as I often say, it is people that make businesses succeed. It's also people that make businesses fail. So we need to look at our people to be sure we're making them work in the way that they will make businesses succeed, and protect or prevent them, discourage them from making your business to fail. So a business must have purpose, vision, mission, must determine where it is going, must have its corporate values, philosophical value. What are the values that will drive this purpose? Because a purpose without value, you're going nowhere. Then you have the people, proper orientation, proper training, proper motivation, proper empowerment, so that they will be the best of what they can be in your organization. Looking at that is good for them and good for the business. Processes. In corporate governance, you hear about processes, principles, policies. Those are the things that corporate governance lives on. That's what a good company lives on. There must be a standard of procedure. There must be policy on everything. Policy on giving, policy on employment, policy on promotion, policy on retirement, policy on purchasing of raw materials, policy on everything that you do in the company must have a process and a policy, so that it is repeatable, it's reproducible. When one month leaves, another person comes, the company continues to go. If you don't have these processes, these standard operating procedures in place, when one man goes, another person comes and starts his own way, or you spend the whole time trying to teach him. He comes in and looks at the documents and sees the process, follows it. For manufacturing companies, that's where you can have reproducibility. You have a standard operating procedure that gives you the same quality of products every time. So what a good company with a good corporate governance, there must be policy on everything, even policy on how to die, policy to treat people who die at work. You must have those policies, so that we don't just do things for this man differently and do for another person differently. Or when things have happened, we start looking for how to do it. So it's something that is doable in the company, and design a procedure, a process, a policy. Fourth pillar of corporate governance, performance. Performance. Because we're not doing these things, policies, processes, people, purpose for nothing. It is with an objective to deliver an outcome, to produce products, to produce services that meet customer needs, products that solve customers' problems, policies that help to elevate the quality of life of your people, of your citizens, of your constituents. That is what performance. So you cannot talk about corporate governance and we're not speaking about performance. Then we have missed it, because everything else is supposed to support performance. Performance is the outcome. Performance is what shows all the efforts we make, all the money we spend. We can only see the reward by the performance, the outcome. So in corporate governance, a company that has good corporate governance must be monitoring, evaluating, rewarding, reprimanding, and training people to perform at the optimal level. Let's go. The core objectives of governance, let's move on. The core, again, it is like summarizing some of the things I have said, but putting them in proper form. One, accountability. Accountability. So you establish a system that holds boards of directors, management, employees, shareholders, and other stakeholders accountable for the actions and decisions. Everything you do, you must account for it, both in terms of if you spent money and then the outcome of your decision, of the opportunity to make decisions. Protection of rights. This is the area of fairness, protection of shareholders and other stakeholders' rights and interests, ensuring that all have fair returns for their investments and efforts. Fair returns. So often, shareholders are not at work, or the financials are not at work in the office. Your suppliers, your customers, nobody's there. It's usually managers and employees that are at work. And if they don't protect other people's rights, the company will have problems. They ensure that everybody has a fair return. There will be difficulty in getting more investments. Thirdly, which is something I may not have emphasized in the previous discussions, is the ethical business conduct. We talked about efficiency. We talked about effectiveness. Effectiveness is producing results. Efficiency is doing those things at the appointed time and with the minimal resource. Ethical business is critical. That's working according to the rule, obeying the rules, obeying the codes. This ensuring that the company's executives and board exhibit first personal integrity and ensure that the company performs at the highest level of both business and ethical conduct through strict compliance with policies, regulations, and codes. There are corporate governance codes promoted by CAMA, promoted by SEC, and different other sub-sectoral groups have their codes. The consumer manufacturers have their codes. The banks have their codes. But we have general codes that are specified by CAMA and SEC, So this is the job of the board of directors, to ensure that everybody is working according to the rules. Yes, some of us may be eager to do business for the company. Some of us may be eager to help the company succeed. Guys, the success we want is success that is guided by ethical conduct, not success by all means. Break the law to make success is not good success. Steal to make success is not success. Commit fraud to make success is not success. It's not going to be sustainable, because corporate governance talks about business sustainability. Business sustainability, because when all is said and done, that's what we want to ensure, that the core objective is that this company remains today, tomorrow, the day after, next year, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, transgenerational, is business sustainability. And it can only happen when we act in terms of maintaining good business conduct, good business performance, protect people's rights, we're accountable. And then we take strategic actions. The company remains sustainable over a long through the provision of short and long-term planning. Today's plan, 5 years, 10 years, through the availability of appropriate funding to keep the business running, and through business performance and orderly succession planning. Good business performance, proper funding, strategic plan, short and long term, ethical business conduct, protection of rights, accountability. These things help to have the company running over many years. That is called business sustainability. Sustainability of a business, of a project, of a program, of a nation, of an NGO. This is the main purpose and the core objectives of corporate governance. Can I proceed? Or does anybody have a question at this point? Okay, if I can't hear anybody, let's move on to succession planning. Succession planning is a strategy for passing on leadership roles and sometimes ownership of a company to an employee or a group of employees. That's one definition of succession planning. Also, it is the process of identifying the critical position within an organization and developing action plans for individuals to assume these positions without disruption to the company's sustainability. So, succession planning or succession management is an essential component of broader human resource planning. It involves an integrated systematic approach for identifying, developing, and retaining capable and skilled employees in line with current and projected business objectives. That's what succession planning means. Getting all the time, you have the right people to occupy positions that are critical in the company. And the method of planning to make that happen. It's not going to happen when the man has resigned. It's not going to happen when the man has died. Sorry to use that as an example. We all are mourning Hubert Wigwe, who just died, the GMD of Access Corp. 2 days or a day after it, an acting GMD had been appointed. And they didn't, it was not that day that they have already identified a successor. So there is a swift. The day they announced the death of Herbert, the share prices of Access Corp in the stock market. The next day, when the acting MD was announced, the share prices rose up, which shows that the shareholders say, okay, at least our company is being managed. It's not allowed to just dribble or to slide down with nobody controlling it. So the moment you appoint an active managing director, they know that the company, a new driver is on the wheels. Because if you have a car, the driver is dead. Everybody in the car is praying and shouting until somebody else takes over the control of the wheels. Then there's confidence, there's control. That's what succession planning actually means. But let's go into details of the processes of how to get about it. Steps to succession planning. Step one is to identify the key areas and positions. Of course, it is not required or not necessary that you must do succession planning for every position in the company. That may not be necessary. It's not saying it would be bad if you did it, but depending on the size of your company. So you focus on the key areas and positions. That's where it's important. If the MD drops dead, what happens? The finance director drops dead. If the head of operations in the plant, if the quality, those critical areas, not all areas, should you make too much effort. Of course, in some places, they have the ability to plan even up to the level of drivers and office assistants. That's fine. But for the purposes of succession planning as a subject, we first do identify key areas and positions. Key areas and positions are those areas that are critical to the operational activities and strategic objectives. The ones that can harm the company, or if there is no proper planning, you don't put the right person or the right replacement, the company will begin to have difficulties. Two, so that's the first thing you do, identify which areas in our company, in our business, in our organization that are critical, that can't wait. If there's nobody on that seat today, the company will be in trouble. Those are the ones you want to be sure that you focus your attention on. The other thing is identify what positions, another way of looking at it, what positions, if left vacant, will make it very difficult to achieve current and future business goals. It's another way of looking at the first point, key areas of positions that are critical. It's also say, suppose we don't have an MD for 1 week, for 1 month. If we don't have a finance director for one month, 2 months, if we don't have head operations, if we don't have cashier. So you identify the positions, if you leave vacant, will make it difficult for you to achieve your current and future business goals. If there's nobody to get the money, how would you raise money? If there's nobody to sell the products, how would you sell your goods? So that's the kind of thing we're talking about. Then you also identify the third segment of identify what position, if left vacant, will be detrimental to the health, safety, or security of the people in the organization. So it's not just achieving current and future business goals, but you also look at the health of the people, the safety or security of the people in the organization. So you might find that if we don't have a security man in an organization, if the security man doesn't come to work today, what happens to us? So it's a time to identify such person. It may be low, but it's critical to the safety and to the health of the people in the organization. So when you have identified these key areas and this position, the next thing is step 2. Then you identify capabilities for key areas and positions. What is capabilities for key areas and positions? To establish selection criteria, focus employee development efforts, and set performance expectations. You need to examine the capabilities required for the key areas and positions identified in step 1. What are the capabilities? What are the relevant knowledge that we need for that position? What are the skills that are required for that position? What are the abilities? What are the competencies needed to achieve business goals? So you have to identify the capabilities before you now look at the people that meet those capabilities. So you use your leadership competency profile and also get inform the employees about key positions, key areas and positions that are available, and also let them know the capabilities you're looking for. In some organizations, this is advertised, to put people who want to move from one position to another in preparations. Sometimes they advertise. Sometimes it's not advertised. It's the HR that searches the files of employees to begin to identify those who, that's step 3. Step 3 is now identify probable employees and assess them against capabilities. So those capabilities you set up front is step 2. That is what qualifies, what are the kind of skills such people should have, what kind of experience they should have, what kind of character, what kind of knowledge. After you've done now go to step 3. Session move the screen to step 3. Then step 3 now talks about identify probable employees and assess them against capabilities. Determine who is interested and has the potential to fill the key areas of positions. Discuss career plans and interests with employees. The employees may not want to move. Some may want to change career if, for example, they're in sales and opportunities are evolving in production, or in production or manufacturing, opportunities are coming out in sales. Discuss with them. They may want a career switch. So before you start looking outside, look inside and see whether there are people that have skills. They may be in the wrong place now, but they can be properly placed to move into another role. Ensure a sufficient large and robust pool to select from. So it's from here you are now beginning to prepare people. Step 4 is now to develop and implement the succession and knowledge transfer plans. Because when you want to, as you're developing people, you need to understand what kind of knowledge they need. So you need to incorporate strategies for learning, training, development, and the transfer of corporate knowledge to your succession planning and management. Sometimes you need to send them to schools. Companies send people to Harvard University, send them to Lagos Business School, send them to Columbia. I went through all that. I went to Columbia. I went to Lagos Business School. Those are the kind of things the company, after they've identified you, they begin to prepare you to ensure that you develop the worldview, you broaden your spectrum, you understand some of the strategic issues that be required in the new, even before you get to the position. Okay. Step 5. Step 5 is now evaluate effectiveness. So after you've gotten your positions that are supposed to be filled or that will be filled, after you've identified the capabilities, after you identified people who will occupy them, and then you start preparing them and getting them ready for the new positions. Step 5 is evaluate effectiveness. Evaluate and monitor your succession planning and management efforts to ensure the following. 1. Succession plans for all key areas and positions are below. So you know who should come if this man is out, or moves out, or goes forward, or goes backward, or disappears. You are sure that key positions are filled quickly. One day the man dies. We keep one day to honor him and wish him well. The next day, the position is filled, and the company continues to operate. Unfortunately, that's the way the world is. We can't hold the world, we can't hold the company, we can't hold the business because one man has joined since triumphant, which is where we think everybody should be aiming to go to heaven, not to go to hell. New employees in key positions perform effectively. You have to monitor because the taste of the pudding is in the eating. It is when the tire touches the quota, we'll not know whether it's performing well. So an employee may show some prospects, may show, that he can do the job. A new hire, a whiz kid from somewhere can do like he do the job. But when he gets onto the job, you need to ensure that he's performing effectively and that you have appropriate pool diversity. Who you have already identified to assume higher positions must not be people from who would have the same height, who have the same color, who are the same sex, and who speak the same language. You must have a pool that has appropriate diversity, because diversity is first a component of corporate governance, and diversity we know brings a lot of benefits to an organization. All right. So we'll now go to the last subset of this discussion. Future profiling. Future profiling. What is future profiling? How does it differ from succession planning? Succession planning is that you already have an organogram to organograms. The future profiling is a different thing. Future profiling means anticipating future developments within the global economy or national economy or specific industry. Necessitate proactive preparations to be ready to ensure competitiveness and sustainability into the future. It involves a high dose of proactiveness. Proactiveness. It is peeping into the future. It is forecasting the future to see how will tomorrow be in this business. The next 5 years, 10 years, what kind of people should be working here? What kind of people should be working in the industry? What kind of technologies will be appropriate? How will this industry function? Is future profiling, because sustainability is an important point of corporate governance, as I told you before. And businesses have failed because they didn't do future profiling. IBM came to the market before Microsoft. Microsoft is ahead of IBM. Kodak was in the market before those who started digital. One of those started digital camera, but he did not understand the digital divide that was emerging. So you must prepare yourself, otherwise you will be behind other people. You will not be a copycat. You will be struggling to catch up. So there are three key areas of future profiling. First is future skill profiling. Here you are talking about first the future. This is relating an individual's subjective personal abilities to learn, adapt, and develop in order to improve his opportunities to productively participate in tomorrow's working world. You need to prepare people by looking at their personalities and their abilities to adapt and develop. So that helps you to prepare them to be in the workforce of tomorrow, because the workforce of tomorrow will be needed. I mean, like today, anybody you're training in school and you're not teaching him electronic skills, digital skills, then you're not preparing for the workplace. People are going to school today and they're still learning the same way we learned in the 70s. They are not prepared to work in today, not even talking of tomorrow, because today is that tomorrow we saw when we were in the university in the 70s. So that is the first future skill dimension. The second future skill dimension is relating to an individual's ability to act in a self-organized way in relation to an object, a task, or certain subject. It is emphasizing a new understanding of knowledge, going beyond pure expertise and towards connect knowledge with motivation, values, and the capacity to act in the concerned field of knowledge. Now you are looking at problems. You're looking at problems. You are looking at objects, and you are asking yourself, what are the new knowledge? What are the new motivation? What are the new values that we need to put together in our employees, in ourselves, in a particular field of knowledge? Is it in space orbiting? Is it in computing? Is it in AI? There are all kinds of subjects that we need to focus our task and decide how to acquire the knowledge to deal with those problems that will appear in the future. The third future skill dimension is letting an individual's ability in a self-organized way to relate to a social organized environment. In this case, it is emphasizing individual's dual role as curator of his own social portfolio of membership in several organizational spheres, or rethinking organizational spaces and recreating organizational structures for the future. We are social animals, and our socialization prepares us for what we're going to face. When we grew up as community, but people are becoming individualized today, and they're operating in silos. I bet you are not looking for how to connect those silos to be able to get the job done. So are people able to work in silos? Can people work at home from home instead of gathering in the office? Can they work unsupervised? These are future skill dimension which you must begin to look in your employees and the future employees that you need to be able to ensure that your business is prepared to face we're still in 21st century. I believe some people are already thinking about the 22nd century. But even the next decade, some of us are not even thinking beyond 2024. Future profiling is for people who want to remain relevant in the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years, or 100 years. And again, those who are in some industries, for some of us, our industries, our businesses are stable. But if you're in technology, for example, technology is changing every day. And if you don't do skill profiling, future skill profiling, you may not have the right people to work in your industry into the future. So let's go to the second future profiling component, which is now the job profiling. Now, you remember the first element we looked at skill, preparing people, giving them skills for future development. Now, in this case, we are not looking at future job profiling. So we're not developing future-oriented and complete job profiles. This reflects anti-specific job and skill profiles in the short, medium, and long terms. This information can be used by company and HR managers to develop and recruit the latest occupations and associated skills. On the employee side, the profiles provide transparency and guidance to better prepare for future development. So what kind of job profiles are we having now? Future job profiles. If you're a medical doctor, if you're a pharmacist, and you are used to working in hospitals or used to working in industry, is that opportunity going to be available in the next 10, 20 years? So what kind of jobs are you expecting within your industry? What other jobs? Are they digital jobs? Are they jobs that will involve using artificial intelligence? Are they jobs that will involve working with robotics? So what kind of jobs are going to come? Today's Nigeria, you have job profiles. People are reading history. They are reading sociology. They are reading all kinds of things. They are not profiling the jobs of the future. So if you're going to the university, what kind of jobs are you thinking that will be available when you leave work, you leave school? That is future job profiling. So you prepare yourself for the type of job that come then. Is it traveling job, sedentary job? You need to get yourself, you need to get prepared. And companies also prepare their staff and readiness for that future job that will prepare that will happen. Of course, for the employee himself, it's also when he begins to look at those future job profiles, he decides to see how he can prepare himself, training through personal development to be ready to change jobs or get that type of job. Otherwise, he will be jobless. The third part of future profiling is future technologies profiling. People ask what technology will come in the future. We're thinking of artificial intelligence. We're hearing of machine learning. We talk about automation, quantum computing, DNA testing, space exploration, and renewable energy exploration. These are the things we are looking at technology in the future. So what will happen? This will create new jobs, because if you look at the technologies that are in future, then to create new jobs, you now need jobs for what we call robot monitoring professionals. So there are the professionals called robot monitoring professionals, because the robots will be doing the work. Somebody needs to monitor them. Data scientists, automation specialists, content curators, geneticists, space engineers, and pilots. These are the jobs of in technology of tomorrow. So while we are seeing technology coming, seeing new emerging technologies, it calls for us to profile the kind of skills, the kind of jobs, the kind of preparation to make ourselves able to play the roles, to help our works, to help our children as they choose career, as they choose subjects to read in university. It's okay to go to university, but what does it profit you to go to university and you come out with a degree and you can't find job after 5 years? I don't think it is useful now. Instead of going to do a degree, you don't get a job. Why don't you just even go to a technical school or go to a vocational school and learn how to play piano, learn how to play guitar, and you get a good job. Music is growing. People get piano, who can play piano, are getting a lot of money to, with music to teach. So there are many things you can do than just going to university or to school and come out and you're not prepared to solve out today's problem, not talk of tomorrow's problem. So with this in mind, companies and individuals, including futuristic employees, pursue lifelong learning because that's the way to be sure that you are profiling technologies and other areas. You are doing experimentation. You are doing scenario building to anticipate and create future technologies, staying far ahead of competition and assuring sustainability. Because it's the guy that gets there first. As they say, it is the fish that or the fisherman who gets to the river first that catches the big fishes. When others come, they are catching the small fishes. So proactivity, lifelong learning, which is what we're doing in this conference today. This seminar is part of lifelong learning. So today we'll try to update our knowledge in this area. Then we'll go and read more and prepare ourselves. What is important is that as an individual, you must be competitive. As a company, you must be competitive. And your competition will depend on how your company is governed and how you prepare you are for the future. Otherwise, the future may leave you behind. And that's not a good thing to say. So let's conclude this discussion. Corporate governance, succession planning, and future profiling are all aimed at one thing. What is that thing? Sustainability. Keeping the company competitive and producing good results over the long term. At individual levels, the concept helps us to optimize our potentials and be the best of what we can be in any given environment. It does not matter what that environment is. It does not matter what the economy is. It does not matter what the circumstances are. The truth of the matter is that if we are determined to be on the cutting edge, if we are determined to be on the cutting edge of our industry, our professions, we'll continue to attract business. No matter what's going on, there's a demand. Demand will come. If it's not enough, it will go to the best. If it's enough, it can spread to the rest. So always be sure that you are on the top of your game. Thank you so much. God bless you. Yes, I'm done. I wouldn't take questions or what?
Okay. Yeah. Thank you everyone for your time. Thank you for being part of this session. So if we have a question, I guess this is the time to ask. Please, you can raise up your hand. I can see. Okay, go ahead, sir.
Well, good afternoon. And our dear President, good afternoon, sir. Nice to be with you. This is Chijoke Eke. And sorry, travels didn't allow me to get here quickly and join you, but what I had gladdens my heart. Thank you once again. I got the beat. You were talking about diversity. Diversity. Looking at it's something that is fairly straightforward and one shouldn't be raising questions. But what I mean here, in the current situation we find ourselves in the corporate world and in the governance circuits, a lot of things, look at this, it looks like there's some form of glass ceiling or segmentation that is taking place. Being somebody who has been renowned in the boardroom and selection processes, how do you think we can try to get over the challenges of this diversity at this time, because this is something I believe that I have seen in different organizations where there have been conscious effort to make it. But at the end of the day, it is still what it is. And that is something I would like to drink from your fountain of knowledge. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. Good to hear your voice again. I have a book I called my book Where to Lead, and I have one subject there called Armor Against Faith. Armor Against Faith. Armor Against Faith. It's one of the lessons. You know, I worked in the industry. Are you hearing? Are you hearing me?
I can hear you clearly, sir.
Okay. So I worked in an industry where I knew I had a glass ceiling. It was obvious because those ahead of me, I knew what happened to them. But God gave me the wisdom of what I call armor against faith. So what I did was that I decided to compete myself, in which case, if you ask me to do one, I did two. I did one, I did two. So consistently, people found it difficult to ignore me for a long time. For the reason that it's obvious that a man who is consistently producing two, producing one or half or what or less than one, and you cannot ignore him for too long. I call it armor against faith. It helped me to break the ceiling. In fact, I got to a point where one of my bosses was so open. He called me one day and said, "Sam, I don't like your name. I like your work. I like your work." I then told myself, "Please manage my work. You know, this name, not me give myself this name. I didn't know how it came about, but the work is all that I have control. I have control over, you know." So that helped me. And in most places, it's one way. When you know that there is this ceilings and biases and all manner of things, my own best advice to people is to compete yourself. When you compete yourself, people notice you. You know, it's difficult to ignore a star. Of course, I'm now speaking in the case of where you have organizations where you still have people who are primitive, who are still classifying people by where they come from or what language they speak or what color they have. In today's world, diversity is open, and people want to get the best from people, and understanding that there's no group God created inferior to the other. Everybody were created the same. It is our ability to develop our skills, our talents. Everybody has some skills. Everybody has some talents. If you allow yours to be dormant, then you are complaining. But if you discover yours or take the pains to build them more, people can't stop you. If you come to a company and you have 2 masters, you have 2 PhDs, they can be saying all manner of things, but somebody's going to say, "No, you can't continue overlooking this guy that is so very well qualified." That is for but I think that we who are corporate governance professionals, because sometimes you cannot do anything about what other people are doing, but we can do something different. We can set new. When in this organization I was telling you, because it was evidence that there was some bias against people from certain part of the world. So when I passed through and became CEO of this company, people from my own part of the world came to me and say, "It is now their turn. We have arrived. After all this, you know, this, all that, this, that." So I laughed. I told them, I said, "Sit down, guys, see what will happen." You see, when I was climbing, when I was coming, what was happening was that we knew the destination, where we're running to. We knew the distance. When we were placed at different levels, I was placed behind. Somebody was placed 500 meters ahead of me, another person 700, and we are all asked to embrace the tape at the same time. So God enabled me to overtake these people who were ahead of me to reach the tape and win the prize. That's in my own case. I'm not going to place anybody in front or back. Everybody will be on the same line. I'll blow the whistle. Whoever gets to the tape wins, whether you are from Z or from Y or from Antarctica, you are from Colombia or from Afghanistan. If you reach the tape, please, you take it. If you are from my part of the country, I'm sorry, I cannot help you beyond. What I'll do is to remove the bias against, remove the disadvantage if you're front. Give everybody fair chance, level playing ground. But if you are the other who beat you, I'm sorry. That's where I can help. So that's the way I think personally we did this. And as professionals, it doesn't matter what we inherited, it doesn't matter what we have passed through, we should try and begin to show the accepted method of promoting diversity and treating people on merit.
Thank you, Sean. I think that makes a lot of sense for me.
Thank you.
Let me give some other people a chance, otherwise I have a follow-up.
Let's see if somebody else is. Yeah, who next? Who is next? So who is the person raising his hand? I'm only seeing Chijioke's hand. Any other hand?
Okay, I think that is the only hand we have here. That is the only hand we have.
Okay. Okay, go ahead now.
All right, sir. Then the other side of the whole thing for me is on the flip side. Sometimes too, you have some of these challenges where a management board also gives an express advice or directive that, well, let's introduce more diversity into this organization, and so that we can plan along with a diversified terrain. But somehow, the company still ends up in what I call a cook box, which limits that same diversity, and it is glaring, not by design, but by means of maybe selection or the lack of it. But at the point in time, it becomes a challenge. Having looked at your very glorious experience in the corporate boardrooms, and I believe with all the dogfights and all that, but what's in your own way, are there some creative ways you can come around this to try and increase the diversity? I am very particular about diversity because if you look at the larger society, part of the unfortunately segmentation you're having outside governance in the private sector, and you're looking at even the public government setups, are all casualties of this ignoring these very important things. And I want to go there. How do you think, because if we start it at the unit levels, maybe with time and consensus, we can elevate it to the national level. How do you go about deliberately without seeming to be lowering your bar in some areas to get this diversity, or constricting some other people who have ambitions and are doing well? Like you said, yours was by merit. Now, but you see, the organization board says, go ahead and improve the diversity of this environment. And management said, very well, we will do that. And they make conscious efforts. But at the end of the day, the apple basket still have more red apples than green apples. So let me hold you to that and see what I can get. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. You're really dealing with practical problems, that face us in the workplace. This was how the rule of affirmations came into being. Of course, it's been used in different ways. That's how blacks came to be involved in issues in America in the days when there was discrimination. You have to make affirmations that, issue of the Beijing conference, where it was now said that you must make an attempt to leave a particular percentage of position to women and all that. So those kind of things do come, and it is a decision that the board makes. If the board is actually ready to drive diversity, of course they will have the profile of the current geographical spread of the people, or ethnic, or whatever diversity they are looking at. Is it geographic? Is it demographic? Is it sex demographic? Whichever. If they have the board sees a calculation or a picture of the demographic, they can now say, because at times we have made a publication, we say only those who have any physical disability should apply. So you can see that we're now seeking for people with disabilities. Sometimes you can take it to a regional area. If one more people from the north of Nigeria to apply, we make the center of the interview in the north. We invite, that creates more opportunities for people from the north to apply. And then also constituting the interview panel also puts quite a few people from that area. So that you are able to motivate that the chances are that a few more people from that area will fall into the net, onto your basket. In the political area, that's easier to incorporate. It's more difficult. But in politics, you just say we want one man from the east, one man from the west, one man from the south, one man from the north, or we need one man from southeast, one man from southwest, one woman from south. In political area, it's easy to do that. You can decrete more or less and go search for the people. But in corporate, it's more difficult. But if the corporate is serious, just say, they can design this skewed geographical activity to be able to attract the people. The other thing that can be done is what we call head hunting. You can go hunt people from that area specifically, instead of passing it generally. You go to certain areas and hunt people from the area, other that geographical area, or people from that age group, or people from that sex disposition, whatever. You can decide to do hunting or targeted interviews that can help you to also improve on the diversity.
Thank you.
All right. So I assume there's nobody else, but as well conclude. Or what do you think?
Okay, I think we have no other hands being raised here. So I guess we are good. And for everyone who has taken time to participate in this training, so the slide that was used, of course, will be sent to every one of us. And thank you for your time. And for those who joined via the group and didn't take time to register, you might need to drop your email address. That is if you have not registered for this course before. So you will need to drop your email address so that you can send it to you. Thank you for your time. So if there is no other question, I think that will be all for now.
All right then. So take care. Have a pleasant it's to phone now. Have a pleasant evening. God bless you all. Thank you, guys.
Amen. Thank you, our Presido, and thank you, everybody. It's been nice being with you. Bye.
Thank you, sir. Bye, sir.
Feeling better.